everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, you're gonna hear, warning, I'm quoting now, you're gonna hear those words. Putin loves Israel and I heard it from him before it got to Netanyahu. Who said those words? You're gonna see in a moment. But before I present to you my today's video, that again might trigger a number of you, I want to emphasize on something very important, and that is my personal relations with Russian people and my absolute love and admiration for the country of Russia. I'm going to address entire video about it because it is important to highlight the fact that I took many trips to Russia because of my own personal decision. Those trips were not sponsored by anyone. It was my own money that I was using from my savings, as well as I designated portion of the apartment that I sold after my father passed away, to go on that trip. And when I went to Russia, it was December 2022, the first year of the special military operation. That part of Russian business, which is tourism, was not in best shape because, as you know, many people were afraid to go there, afraid because what they might encounter when they are in Russia, or they were actually brainwashed, believing that they will be not welcomed or something of that nature. And for me, someone from Poland, and as you know, a lot of people is very Russophobic, I have proven in the last at least 3 years now that I am nothing but supportive of Russian people in Russia. And I was also supportive of President Putin, but at this moment I support people because I don't believe in continuum of this conflict of more people dying unless there is a different plan behind it that is a global plan. And I have too many questions at this moment, too many doubts, and I really want to separate my love and respect for Russian people because they endured, they suffered through so much in the history that it's about time to stop that. And who created that suffering? Maybe that is the most important question. Because it looks like we are kind of repeating the same cycle that maybe it's slightly different presented to us. So the cause of all of it, all roads lead to the same evil ultimately, but we might be just observing a different form of presentation of that. That's why I know that it's triggering, and I have to tell you, I am luckily in this position in which I am not sponsored by anyone. No one ever paid for my videos. No one ever had sponsorship on my channel. The only way I support this work is thanks to God, to Jesus really helping me with continuing, and you guys and your donations, because it's a good place to be. If I change my opinion, I am not surrounded by many people who speak one language, and if you come out of it, you might lose the community because I'm a loner type. And sometimes, you know, it's not easy place to be, but sometimes actually it helps because you can just approach things in your own way. That's where I am at this point. And I want to say thank you to those who donated on PayPal before I forget. And we go to a very interesting video today. I hope you stay with me. To Dr. Eva, Susan, Fred, Truth, and John, thank you guys so much for your donations. I very, very much appreciate. So what did I prepare for you today? I wanted to go a little bit deeper into this entire movement that is called Chabad, I'm sorry, I mispronounced again, Chabad Lubavitch. And why is that? Because some people were accusing me that I was presenting some Western propaganda, and that is far from the truth. But I want to show you something. I just wanted to ask this question. since we will see a lot of interactions today with certain rabbi who is in charge of the Russian region, this Chabad Lubavitch movement, it's a movement, an Orthodox, more extreme part of this movement. Those rabbis are in many countries all around the world, and there is one designated for Russia. And I just asked a simple question here. Again, maybe this is again lies and it's not true. Does that Chabad Lubavitch worship Jesus? So I got the answer. No, Chabad Lubavitch does not worship Jesus, as it is a movement within Hasidic Judaism, which rejects the messianic claims of Jesus. Okay, so they don't believe Jesus is Messiah. That's how they look at it. But Russian Orthodox Church does, right? Let's continue. While some followers believe their last leader, Rabbi Menahem Mendel Schneerson, was the Messiah. So the one who is no longer alive was the Messiah, something. This belief is specifically Jewish concept of the Messiah and does not involve any worship of Jesus. So here is an interesting part. The rejection of Jesus. So Chabad Lubavitch, like other Jewish movements, does not believe Jesus is the Messiah. No, it's not this. Anyway, what they are saying, guys, if you do a little bit more research on it, is that the Messiah will come, but is not God. It's a man. So the Messiah, the one and only Messiah that is coming, will be a man, a human. So that is the one who looks like might run the world, okay? Interesting if they already have one, elected one, chosen one, voted for one. I don't know how that goes. But let me take you to a video that is pretty interesting. This says 11 years old, maybe even more than that, from the archives. And this shows you a gathering in New York City in which you're going to see some very interesting people. I will be stopping a few times and giving to you my commentary. So let's go.
They came from New Jersey. They came from New Mexico. They came from New Zealand. They came from Africa, from Japan, from Kazakhstan and beyond. They were old and they were young. Over 2,000 of the emissaries of Chabad Lubavitch. They met together, they sang together, and they prayed together. And here at the Gala Banquet, concluding the International Conference of Shluchim, they packed New York City's largest ballroom for 5 hours last month.
Hi, my name is Rabbi Levi Tenenbaum from Melbourne, Australia.
Levi Munshine from Smolensk, Russia.
I'm from St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands.
Guatemala. Fort Myers, Florida.
From Richmond, British Columbia.
I'm for the Ukraine.
From Wimbledon in England.
Córdoba, Argentina.
Following a routine set in place by years of
The Devar Torah was delivered by a new shliach, one of over 100 sent by the movement to towns and cities across the world last year.
The Rebbe pointed to a stack of invitations from Jewish organizations, from Chabad houses. He looked at my father, and with his disarming smile and assuring tone of voice responded, "Eating? Every few hours I'm invited to a banquet."
The keynote speaker was Russia's chief rabbi, Beryl Lazar, who told the massive assembly a story he heard inside the Kremlin.
The president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, told me a personal story. When he was a young child, he grew up in a very poor family. His parents were always out at work. His luck, the next door neighbor was a Hasidic Jewish family, and they always made sure to invite him over. They were extremely kind to him. And he realized that not only were they kind to a child who wasn't theirs, not only were they kind to a child who wasn't Jewish, but they were kind to a child in a time and place when it was dangerous to do that. 30 years later, because of the gratitude he felt towards his family and the respect for the Jewish people as a whole, as deputy mayor of the city of Leningrad, he granted the official permission to open the first Jewish school in the city.
The slogan for Hungary.
Rabbi Moshe Kotlarski, the conference chairman, called out every city and state.
The slogan to Belgium. The slogan to Denmark. The slogan to England.
The delegations from the Holy Land, France, Russia, and New York got special ovations.
So I'm just tapping to highlight on that what was said. The delegations from Holy Land, England, Russia, and New York got special ovation.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, a friend of Chabad at Harvard University, shared some thoughts on Chabad's campus network.
Okay, this is very important to highlight. Dershowitz, I know you know who it is. Many of you do. This is the lawyer of Jeffrey Epstein. That's right. Dershowitz was a lawyer of Epstein. He's part of it. And here he will be talking about the campuses in the United States. So what this Chabad Lubavitch has to do with those campuses? Let's take a listen. We're making a full circle, everyone, to the current times.
Wow, what a gathering. The energy, the love, the Yiddishkeit in this room are beyond belief. Whenever I hear people talk about the diminution of Judaism around the world, I wish they could be here tonight to experience this. And that's why the fight for the minds, the hearts, the souls of college students today is so important. And that's why we must extend a collective Yasher Koach to people like the Zarkis, to others of the Shalichim at Penn, at Connecticut, some who I've met tonight, at Princeton. I'm going to leave out places, I'm going to leave out names. But we cannot rest until there is at least one Chabad Shaliach on every major college campus in the world.
This is the highlight of my year. It's actually the Rosh Hashanah of Shlichus. It's probably the weekend from which we draw more inspiration than any other.
I come here to rejuvenate, and I love every bit of it. I hope it never finishes tonight.
With this many people from this many locations, everything's got to fall perfectly into place. 3,000 stakes, 8 camera operators, 24 channels of audio, 16 walkie-talkies, 1 piano, 2 technicians for a live internet feed, and 6,072 happy dancing feet.
I think we're gonna stop with this. What a meeting, what a dance, would you say, right? Very interesting video, don't you think? Let's scroll down. I want to highlight one comment because I will be closing my video with sharing something pretty graphic, but very, very good video. And I really want to present this to you. Since you know I'm also very fascinated by the Romanovs family story. Someone left the comment right here. Many comments. Someone said there is no longer Christian Russia after the execution of the Tsar family. And why I decided to read this, because the last part of this video you're going to see today will be showing to you pretty graphic scenes, but I think it's important to look at it. because that raises also more questions for me personally. That was 11 years ago. Now we're gonna go to the current times, just briefly, because those of people who call me that I am spreading some misinformation and this and that, that's all right. You choose to believe whatever you choose to believe. And if I am looking at things differently, that's my business, don't you think? From the official site of President of Russia, right here, you can see official website. And where is this meeting taking place? This is from February 20th, 2025, 7:30 p.m. So this is this year in February. And this is a meeting between Chief Rabbi of Russia, Berel Lazar, and President of the Federation of the Jewish Communities of Russia, Alexander Boroda. So it's about releasing hostages from Hamas, I believe that was the meeting about. But I want to focus just at the last part of this here, because this is talking about opening the museums of tolerance. Right here, you can see. Putin says, for my part, I would like to thank you for your active involvement in civic society in our country and your contribution to the Museum of Tolerance, which in my opinion, practicing tolerance, it's a virtue, right? Let's be objective. You have to be tolerant. But the question is, what is this movement really about? I would just say. Anyway, let's continue. I think it turned out to be a very good institution of a purely humanitarian, distinctly humanitarian nature. This museum is of interest not only for members of the Jewish community, but for our citizens of other religions and ethnicities. The museum engages in substantial and holistic activities which are also interesting from a cultural point of view. So this rabbi, Berel Lazar, the chief rabbi for Russia, says, the most interesting part is to watch children come and watch. For them, it represents a new understanding of how to be friends and that we are all together, only together. Russia rallied around spirituality, around God. But wait a second, let me just stop here. So if they are not worshiping Jesus and Russian Orthodox Christians are, right? Confusing. Let's continue. This is a special moment. We see people being drawn to it and longing for it. It is a miracle for us to see it here, where before the state, unfortunately, did not realize how important it is. And now your person, everything, and now in your person, everything became different. So he says more, and Putin says, this is what we will do, work together, thank you. I will attach the link down below, you can read it yourself. Let's jump for a brief moment to Ukraine, current time, because clearly this is like huge in Ukraine. And they are moving there, as you know. New Khazaria, the great new Israel project, is in the making, officially, no question. Actually, there is a question how much Putin is involved in this making of this new Israel. This is a good question. And I genuinely would like to find the answer to it. Will I ever? I don't know. Maybe not. But maybe we will. Time will tell, you know, how the situation will end up looking like. Because that great Israel is going to be not just Ukraine. It will be other parts of the other countries, let's put this way as well. But let's go to this very short video, and then we go back to this rabbi that has very close personal relationship with Vladimir Putin and what he's talking about from firsthand and his interactions with Putin. So now let's go to Ukraine, everyone.
Ukraine has always been home to many, many, many Jews in the past.
It'll be good future for Ukraine. Be'ezrat Hashem.
Say amen. Amen. Slava Ukraine, Putin.
Rabbi Nachman said, come to Uman for Rosh Hashanah, and I will personally make sure that everything, that your life goes well, and that everything that you've done in the past is forgiven. So a lot of people come here to get that, to regain their energy for the year. To the numbers, they say 50 to 60,000, and everyone here is very, very happy to be, and everyone here is very grateful to the Ukrainian people for hosting them, and the government for working so hard to make this happen.
My grandparents come from Ukraine. My great-grandfather was a rabbi in Kharkov.
I grew up in New York City, actually.
I originally come from London.
People come from all over, from all sorts of people, from everywhere from the world.
There's thousands of people here that get fed every day, obviously for free.
I'm coming here already over 30 years. I know one thing. Rabbi Nachman asked us to come for the Rosh Hashanah Jewish New Year. If you will ask me how safe I feel like a Jew in Ukraine, I can tell you 100% safe. No anti-Semitism. We go everywhere where we want.
I volunteer my services at the Uman clinic over here, and we help serve the medical needs of the 70,000 plus Jewish congregants that make their pilgrimage every year. I don't necessarily say that there's specifically any anti-Semitic outright, there's a problem with the Jews. If there was, we wouldn't be here.
So this is where everything happens. All the important decisions get made.
Every seat, take seat. Every year we say thanks, Ukraine. And now it's not belong to Russia. Before the corona, let's say like 2,000 people come every week. No religious tourism like we have here. Come and see what we do in Uman. We build here like 65 hotels, restaurants. We're ready to support Ukraine. Don't pray for Ukraine peace. Pray for victory. When you have victory, when you have power, you have peace.
Isn't it interesting, don't you think? So who pays for it? They pay for it? Or maybe when you're supporting Ukraine, that's where the money goes? I wouldn't be surprised. That's also one of those social events, let's put it this way. Oh boy, oh boy, what we are discovering, people, right? So let's go to this interview. This is actually pretty recent, from about 3 years ago or something, maybe a little longer, but not as old as the first one I presented to you. Let's take a listen to this rabbi designated to run Russia's division and his very close relationship with Putin. We're going to listen to a big part of this because he's going to address many interesting topics and maybe answer many questions that you have been recently having. Let's take a listen.
Chief Rabbi Beryl Lazar, Baruch haba, welcome to all of you. We hope you enjoy this evening. I'll try not to be too long to allow you to ask your own questions. Please be aware that this evening is being live streamed, so we are being watched. Chief Rabbi Lazar, after your introductory...
I just want to say welcome to Russia. We're being watched.
Speaking about Russia, we were talking earlier and you were telling me, and it surprised me, about how good it is to be Jewish in Russia today, because it never used to be like that. Can you share that with our audience?
Actually, I remember that was 18 years ago when President Putin came to the opening of the synagogue. That was the first of a Russian president participating in any kind of Jewish activity or event. And I remember a few months later, an old lady came over to me and she said, "Can you believe I'm able to walk in the streets with my head up?" And she said, "My whole life," and she said, "over 7 years, whenever I walk in the streets, I had my head down. And all of a sudden I realized, if the president could come to opening of a synagogue, I can be proud of being Jewish. This was a unique situation because old people rarely change their views, or their attitude. But actually what we see today in Russia, we see a new generation. If you count, today we have 25, 30-year-old boys and girls who actually were born already in freedom. Were born not under communism. Were born in a country that in the past made Jews feel uncomfortable, scared, ashamed of who they are. I mean, you all know it in Russia, in the passport, they used to have what is called the Pyata Grafa, the fifth point. There was the nationality, and the Jew had to have the name Jewish in it. And people did whatever they can to change this point and turn themselves into Russians. And today, the same people are coming back and they're saying, we want to change it again and show that we are Jewish. So you have today young people that actually were born in a new country with a new attitude, and they feel proud of being Jewish. They walk around in the street with a Magen David, they'll walk around the street with a kippah, not because they're religious, just because they want to show who they are. They're proud of being Jewish.
How many Jews are there in Russia today?
That's the million-dollar question. The truth is, whenever people ask us this question, we say, we don't know how many there are, because you're talking about 70, 80 years of assimilation, 70, 80 years of fear of being Jewish, so people did whatever they can to hide their Jewishness. And as I mentioned before, they would change their birth certificate, they would not tell their children who they are. Today, many people are actually all of a sudden finding out that their ancestors were Jewish. But nevertheless, many, many of them remain Jewish. And the real question is, how many Jews know that they're Jewish? There was just a study made by the Levada Center, a famous poll company, and they claim that there's 1.5 million Jews. We don't know if that's an exact number, not exact number. Our job is really to find these Jews, to make them realize that even though you just heard that your grandmother was Jewish, that makes you Jewish. I'll just tell you a small story. And on Hanukkah, I visited a prison. And I'm here today, so I'm fine. And actually, today we have 11 prayer rooms in different prisons throughout Russia. So this was actually the oldest prison in Russia, Butyrkaya, and there is sadly around 25, 30 people in this jail, right now Jews, and we had a special Hanukkah event. So I came there, I visited, and because I was visiting, so the deputy chief of all the jails in Moscow came to greet me. And this lady comes over to me and she says, we're so happy, so honored that you came to visit these prisoners. It's something unlikely to see such an important figure coming just to prisoners. I said, listen, these are the most important members of our community. And we care for them and we want to help them. And actually I told her, it's Hanukkah, it's a special time. We want to give them a feeling of optimism and hope for the future. And I started sharing with her the message of Hanukkah. I said, actually, the message of Hanukkah is something universal. It's not about Jews. It's about lighting a candle, and by lighting the candle, very often we see a different light, and our fears and our concerns just go away. And at a certain point, she tells me, actually, I also have a connection. I say, what do you mean you also have a connection with? So she says, because my grandmother was Jewish. So I say, which grandmother? She says, my mother's mother. I said, well, I want to let you know that you are as Jewish as I am. She almost fell. And she couldn't believe it. She said, are you telling me that I'm Jewish? I said, of course, you are as Jewish as any other Jew. You have to understand that in Russia, if your father is Jewish, you're Jewish. If your father is not, you're not. Feminism doesn't really work too well in Russia, as you probably know. So anyways, this lady was shocked. Of course, I gave her a Hanukkah menorah. I told her, listen, you should light this menorah in your home. You should start coming to the synagogue. It's yours as much as it's ours. Anyway, the event took place. She already had left. And right before leaving the jail, I get a message from one of the guards that the head of the jail wants to see me. So I thought, I hope I didn't do any trouble. I hope everything is okay. Anyways, I come into his office. He locks the door, and he tells me, Rabbi, I heard you telling this lady that if her grandmother was Jewish, she's also Jewish. Well, my grandmother, her name was Maria Abramovna. My great-uncle, his name was Isaac, and they were all Jewish. I just found out that I'm also Jewish. And there was a young man with me when I was visiting the jail. He turns to me and says, did we come to jail or did we come to shul? So this is really the story in Russia. There's so many Jews out there which we don't know about. And our goal is really, as I always say, I'll just say it in 2 words, to make them feel happy of being Jewish. This was when I first came to Russia, I realized Russian Jews suffered because of their Judaism. Their whole life, they were beaten. They didn't come into university because they were Jewish. They didn't get a good job because they were Jewish. You know, there's a famous joke. There's somebody, well, I'll tell you the jokes later.
Tell us now.
Somebody goes for a job interview and they check everything and looks great. And then they ask him, tell us, what's your name? He says, Rabinovich, but I'm not Jewish. He says, with such a name, we might as well take a Jew. So the point is that actually Jews suffered for centuries in Russia. It's not only communism, it's before pogroms and everything. And all of us, and our job really is to give them back some dignity, to make them feel happy that they're Jewish.
Chief Rabbi, you started, even though you were born in Milan, Italy, and you got your smicha and you studied in New York, which explains your great English. You became Chief Rabbi in 1990, so it's been almost three decades. And during that time, you've established a good relationship with President Putin, who, as David said, has now been elected for a 4th term, a landslide with, I think, almost 77% of the vote. How would you describe your relationship with Putin, and do you think another 6 years of Putin is good for the Jews?
I'm not a prophet, so I don't know.
Okay, before we continue, so clearly this, you can tell, this is not the last presidential election in Russia, this is the previous one. So let's continue.
What Russia is going to look like in 6 years from now. We do hope and pray that it's going to get just better and better. I think that if you want to describe who Putin is, I think he's a very brave person. I would even say that he's fearless. Where do I see it? Because he was the first one that decided to give Jews some kind of recognition. He was the first one that started fighting anti-Semitism. As much as we loved Yeltsin and we had a good relationship with him and with Gorbachev, whenever an issue of anti-Semitism came up, they said taboo. Please don't mention it. Please don't talk about it. Of course, it wouldn't show up at a Jewish event. It wasn't popular. It wouldn't have helped them, and probably, people thought it wouldn't even help the Jews. Why stir up and make an issue out of it? Putin was the first one that actually came out and said, the Jews belong in this country as any other nationality, any other religion. So if you ask me what is the relationship, I think he's very open-minded about different nationalities, different people, Jews, non-Jews living in Russia. And therefore, he has a connection with the leader of the Orthodox Church, with the Muslim community, with the Buddhist community, and with the Jewish community. Happens to be that in Russia, religion plays a big part of society. It's an important issue. And therefore, I think that that's his connection probably with the Jewish community.
How do you explain, though, his close connection with you, the Jewish community, and with Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu, with whom he's also established a very good relationship?
When you asked the first part of the question, I wanted to say probably likes my beard, but doesn't work with Netanyahu, so we'll have to figure out a different answer. Actually, I could tell you about Netanyahu. About myself, it's very hard for me to tell. I always try to guess, like, how did I end up in such a position, and is it really me, or it's, and then I look at the mirror and I say, probably not. But when I think of Netanyahu, actually, I remember the first time they met. It was a Hanukkah event in the synagogue, and as we say, Ashgacha Pratit, we invited President Putin, and a few days later, we heard that Bibi Netanyahu is in town. So we told Bibi, actually, if you come to the synagogue on Hanukkah, I don't know if you do that in Israel every time, but if you'll come on Hanukkah, you might meet somebody interesting. And Bibi and Putin met, Netanyahu and Putin met actually at the synagogue. Later, they went into a room and they had a long discussion. It was actually my office for close to 2 hours. And that was the beginning of a relationship that has been going on already for 18 years. So I think that, let me tell you, number one, Putin loves Israel. And I heard this from him before he got to know Netanyahu. He came here, he was invited to Israel when he was deputy mayor of St. Petersburg, at that time Leningrad. He visited the country. He came back home and he told his wife, we are taking a trip to Israel. I want our kids to see how people were able to turn the desert into a land of milk and honey. And he said he took his family and traveled Israel from north to south, from Matula till Beersheba, till Eilat. He really went and saw everything. And he was really impressed for what he saw. And he says, it's something that we can learn from. That's number one. Number two, you have over 1 million Russian-speaking Jews living in Israel. That's a very strong connection with Russia. He feels that this is a strong bridge that can help. Number three, I think Israel has been a good friend to Russia. If you look today, what's going on in the world, sanctions and all of that, Israel has shown that, you know, their friendship is strong, and I think that that was an important message. I also think he realizes that mistakes that were made through the Soviet regime, you know, to stand up and help the Arab countries against Israel was a political mistake and doesn't make any sense. So I think adding up all these points, plus I think he likes strong leaders. I think Bibi's one of them, and but he has liked Sharon, and he loved Peres. I remember many different events when we were sitting together, and he really, I think he has shown to many countries that if you are friendly with Russia, Russia will be friendly with you. And Israel was able to show that.
Okay, so many good points here, very interesting. Clearly, Putin is open-minded to other nationalities and other cultures, and he's just not close-minded, right? He's very tolerant, which this in itself, it's a virtue, I have to say, of course it is. However, this particular rabbi represents a movement, and I want to know what are their practices. So let's look into this again. Let's see if this is accurate, probably. What are the Chabad customs and holidays? So Chabad customs and holidays are the practices, rituals, and holidays performed and celebrated by adherents, sorry if I mispronounce, of the Chabad Lubavitch Hasidic movement. The customs of minhagim and prayer services are based on the Lurianic Kabbalah. So we're talking about Kabbalah. What is Isaac Luria and the Kabbalah? So Isaac bin Solomon Ashkenazi Luria, Isaac ben Solomon Ashkenazi Luria, commonly known in Jewish religion circles as Hari HaKadosh or Arizal, was leading rabbi and Jewish mystic in the community of Safed in the Galilee region of Ottoman Syria, now Israel. He's considered the father of contemporary Kabbalah. So they are practicing Kabbalah, okay. So let me look into this Kabbalah again, because, that's not really godlike, allegedly. Let's look into this, guys. Let's see. The traditions. The Kabbalistic tradition is a Jewish mystical tradition that seeks to understand the essence of God, the universe, and humanity relationship with the divine. So it sounds all really good. Let's look into this. Is Kabbalah anything to do with Satanism? Kabbalah itself is not inherently satanic. It is a tradition of Jewish mysticism focused on the essence of God, Jewish theology, and the study of scripture. However, there's always however, certain esoteric and occult practices derived, so they came from or associated with Kabbalah, have been used in occult traditions and sometimes in practices that are considered satanic. Okay, let's just leave it because that's not a good energy we are stepping into. I don't think the Christian Orthodox Church has anything to do with anything satanic at all. I don't think there's any link, or is there, in the Orthodox Christian Church to anything satanic rituals like? This is very crazy what we are witnessing now, because the simple question that I have before I show you my last video that is very graphic is this. Is it just that Putin loves Jews because he grew up in an environment where he was surrounded by them, and he still is surrounded by them, some Ashkenazi, some not? Or there is some group behind Putin that has some saying as far as his power goes as well? What do you think, guys? I'm just asking a simple question. I'm not insinuating anything at all. I just want to know. Let's look at this video. Very disturbing. If you don't have a stomach to handle it, you might leave now, and you find all the links down below in the description box, as you always do. But this is the Romanovs family, a history that is truly a tragic history of this family, and very mysterious story. Some people say that Anastasia survived, one of the daughters, and she went on with her life, and it's an interesting story, tragic story. So, that's how their lives have ended. And as someone said in the comment under that first video that I played for you, there is no longer Christian Russia after the execution of the Tsar family. Maybe that comment is highlighting something very important. So again, trigger warning. It's a pretty disturbing video.
Давай!
So that's what they did to the Romanovs. And who did it? Let's just ask ourselves this question. That's all I have for you, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. You find the links down below in the description box. If you appreciate the content, I know it's not easy to lately for many of you, but to those who still do, and there is a number of you, hit the thumbs up, subscribe, or check your subscription and leave the comments down below and let me know. And let's be more open-minded to everything that we are witnessing. And let's question things. If I will see things that I might be wrong about, I will go back to it and definitely report to you. But for now, I have more doubts, and I just want to find out more truth about this Jewish movement connection here. And it's unfortunate because, again, not everyone who lives in Israel is pro this movement, right? That's pretty obvious. But all the links, like I said, down below in the description box. If you choose to support my work, you can always do it by becoming my Patreon or by donating on PayPal. That's all for today. Lots of love. And remember, we are the leading edge and we are saving humanity. Bye, everyone.